One of my favorite smells is the smell of freshly baked bread. And today, we are in for a treat because we are getting a one-on-one lesson with one of North America's top bread makers. And I'm inviting you to come along and learn with me. I love the sizzle of butter melting in a pan, the smell of cinnamon while I'm baking. I need to touch food while it's cooking and, of course, taste it, even if I can't see it very well. To me, cooking should be fun. That's why I've invited chefs from across Canada who feel the same way I do to cook with me, virtually. Welcome to Dish with Mary. Babette Kourelos has been baking bread for as long as she can remember, but she never intended to become an artisanal bread baker. She first pursued a law degree in her hometown of Johannesburg, South Africa, but her passion for bread baking kept calling her back. After studying with the late French master baker Gerard Rubaud, she made bread baking her full-time job, and today she is recognized as a leading bread baking expert and will be a judge at the World Bread Awards in Las Vegas. With a cookbook on the way and a full schedule of baking classes, this law graduate turned bread master is all about passion, persistence, and following your dreams. Joining us from British Columbia is Babette Kourelos. Hi, Babette.
Hi, Mary.
So as a low vision cook, I rely on my senses, and I use all of my senses when I'm in the kitchen, which is why I'm so excited today because I get to knead dough. Now, I know sourdough's been all the craze, but we're making focaccia today. What's focaccia?
Focaccia is a wonderful Italian flatbread, and it's super versatile. You can keep it plain, or you can put all sorts of fancy toppings.
It sounds incredible. So I want to begin, and we're going to go through our ingredients because there are minimal ingredients that are needed. So we've got flour, salt, olive oil. We're going to garnish with rosemary and garlic.
Indeed.
And we're doing a traditional, right? We're doing a traditional focaccia.
Correct.
But let's talk about the flour first. We've got what kind of flour in our bowl?
So we've got a high protein flour, so I'd recommend definitely all-purpose flour or bread flour.
So for everyone at home, you can find the full recipe on ami.ca/dish-recipes. Okay, so we've got our flour in our bowl ready to go. And we're gonna be adding what ingredient next?
So once you have the flour, you add your salt, and you mix your salt into the flour.
And just using my hands, mix it all together?
Just using your hands, exactly correct.
Is there a reason why we're putting the salt in before the yeast?
Yes, so the salt and the yeast should never come into direct contact with each other because the salt can weaken the yeast. Remember, the yeast is a living organism, so you don't want to burn it or weaken it. And so the flour will act as a barrier between the two, and it will protect the yeast.
Okay, so I'm just gonna add in my yeast over top now and then just mix it with my hands. Okay. And now at this point, we're gonna be adding our liquid.
So we've got some lukewarm water that we'll be adding because remember, yeast is a living organism and it loves a little bit of warmth and it will just rise a little bit faster. So we have the lukewarm water and that's going to bind all our ingredients together. And we're going to add it very slowly.
Ah, okay, so you read my mind. Now we're doing a bit at a time.
Yes.
Pouring in some water and then using my hand. I know that there's a little technique with mixing with your hands.
Definitely. Keep your fingers together. Don't keep them apart because if they're together, you can actually control your dough better and you don't have a mess going all over the show.
Okay. So a little bit of water and then just scoop in our flour.
Yes, and you can also actually add your olive oil in now too with the rest of the water.
So did you pour in all your water?
No, not yet. I still have a little bit of water on the side.
Okay. I've just poured my olive oil in. Okay, so we're adding a little bit of water at a time. We did a little water, our olive oil. Now we're gonna go back to the water.
Yes, correct. So because the flour has, well, all flour has a different level of absorbency, we just want to make sure that we're not adding too much water to the dough. So you go slowly.
And the reason we're doing this is because you don't want to add too much water.
Yes, because otherwise you won't be able to control your dough.
Now, what if we did have that little mishap and we had added a little too much water?
Well, most people would then try to fix the problem by adding extra flour, and that is clever, but unfortunately you are messing with the flavor because now your balance of flavors will be disturbed and you won't have enough salt in terms of the ratios of all the ingredients.
Okay, so then you could adjust accordingly as you go along, if you had to.
Yes, correct. You'd have to start doing a bit of mathematics.
So what kind of texture are we looking for?
You're looking for a soft texture, definitely not too firm. Soft and sticky, and because we're working with a high protein flour, you'll actually start seeing and noticing elasticity in the dough. So there'll be little stringy bits of dough, and that is the very first signs of your gluten structure and your gluten formation.
So I've just poured in the rest of my water. I'm gonna mix this up a little bit. So I noticed that you're using a little gadget there. What is it?
So it is just a very thin piece of plastic, and it's quite pliable, so it actually is easy to move around inside the bowl, and it helps me control the dough. So I can scrape bits of dough from the sides of the bowl or scrape it off my hand.
I'm gonna take a look, see if I've got something that'll help. I have a little spatula, a little silicone spatula. That may help.
That will definitely work.
Because it does tend to build up the dough on your fingers as you're working this. So it's not a very uniformed ball of dough. It's very textured. So don't be concerned if it doesn't look like this silky smooth ball of dough.
No, exactly.
We want the little ridges and the little texture to it and fairly tacky. Okay, now that we've done that,
we need to wash our hands. Get rid of the dough.
I'm all for that. Okay, clean hands. What's next?
Now we're just going to cover our dough and set it aside for 20 minutes.
Okay, now I can cover it with anything. So we got plastic wrap or
a plate even.
Ooh, I've got a plate.
Whatever works, as long as it's covered.
Okay, let me get the plate. I've got a plate here. Okay, put on top and we'll set this aside.
Perfect.
So I've taken everything off the counter into the sink, nice clean workstation. It's been 20 minutes. Let's get our dough. What's next?
And now it is time to do a stretch and fold.
Okay, and why are we doing the stretch and fold?
Because we are working the gluten, the strands, we're strengthening them.
Okay.
Great, so you're going to just go in with your hand from the side of the ball, grab a little piece of dough and fold it up and towards the center. Correct? And then just rotate the ball and continue folding from the side towards the middle. And it should actually start to come together.
Oh, and it's still fairly sticky.
It's good, it's good. It's sticky, but it should be a little bit easier to handle.
Much easier than when I originally kneaded it. It's got more of like this silkiness to it now.
100%, that's what we're looking for. So every 20 minutes for the first hour of the bulk fermentation, we are going to repeat this stretch and fold.
And I know you mentioned you want to build gluten. Why is that? Is that the air pockets that we get inside the dough?
100%, yes, it gives you the structure and the bubbles in your final loaf. And that should be fine.
So we go around once.
Just until it feels like it's coming together into a nice uniform piece of dough, and we'll cover it again and set it aside again.
So how many times do we do the stretch and fold?
Right, so every 20 minutes for the first hour of bulk fermentation, and then we will allow the dough to rest for a further 1 to 2 hours.
For the magic of television, it's been 3 hours and our dough is all ready to go to the next step. Okay. Let me get this plate off. Oh, you can really smell the yeast right now.
Gorgeous, sweet, floral.
Magical. Okay, what are we doing next?
Now it is time to get our beautiful dough out onto our baking sheet.
Okay, so I've got my baking sheet, a piece of parchment paper down on it.
Yes.
And now we're just gonna pour this dough into the pan.
Yes, you're going to tip it out.
Okay, tip it out, there we go. Now I can see why this dough could be intimidating because it is quite sticky.
It is sticky.
And although you feel like you're doing something incorrect, I'm not.
Don't panic,
right?
no. But let me show you a little trick. We're going to use a bit of olive oil on our fingertips.
Oh, yes, okay.
And that will make it easier to work with the dough and it won't stick to our fingers as much. And just spread the dough out. Don't fight with the dough. It takes a bit of time, but it will spread.
Okay, so here's a question for you. What if it fights you and it bounces back?
Then just let it sit for a bit. It will relax, don't worry. The gluten will relax. And even if it's a bit tight initially, let it sit for a minute or two and then come back and then continue to stretch.
So mine is actually fighting me just a tad.
That's looking gorgeous. That's beautiful.
I may let mine rest a little bit. There we go.
And now we're just going to cover our dough and set it aside and allow it to rise for about 45 minutes.
Okay, let me get a clean tea towel. We're gonna cover this up. The dough needs to rise a little bit longer, so when we come back, we're gonna dish with Babette. Stay tuned. Dish with Mary will return. We now return to Dish with Mary. Welcome back. We've cleaned our work surface. Our dough is resting. Babette, I want to know more about you. Now, bread baking was not your first career choice, was it?
No, that's right, Mary. I was actually supposed to be a lawyer and I studied a BA LLB and then I fell in love with bread and then my career just took another path.
Okay, let's talk about your career. Let's talk about that path. First of all, why bread? What was it about bread?
The simplicity and the fact that it is so basic and it is life-giving, it's sustaining. You can go for a very long time with just a basic loaf of bread as your sustenance. So I think it's so pure and so simple.
Okay, so now let's talk about your journey into how you started developing your craft.
During my law studies, I fell in love with the bread baking process, and then after graduating, I realized that I wanted to take it more seriously and I wanted to have formal training as a bread baker. So I looked for possible apprenticeships, and then eventually I came across this Frenchman, Gerard Rubaud in Vermont, and I sent him a letter. In my application letter to him, I actually included a collage and a selection of photographs of breads that I had baked. And I said to him, these are things that I've just baked at home in my home kitchen, and I'm not professionally trained, but this is what I'm capable of. And about 3 weeks after sending the letter, I got a phone call from Vermont, from this baker. The very first thing he said was, did you really bake the things that you sent me pictures of? And I said, I did. And he said, well, in that case, you can come through. And that was the beginning of a wonderful bread journey.
You come from a background where food is around, always around.
Whenever I smell rosemary, I think of my mom. Every single Sunday lunch, she would have something with rosemary cooking in the oven.
Did you bake with your mom, cook with your mom?
Oh, always. My mom included us. So I have two sisters, and they're both younger than me, and we were always helping my mom in the kitchen. So she would always give us some task and include us. So we started cooking at a very young age, and we were given freedom to explore different recipes, different styles of meals and cooking, and I think that's really important to encourage.
Making bread takes time.
Yes.
Does it take a certain personality to be a bread baker?
I think you need to be patient. You need to also be nurturing, because it's not the kind of task where you can just follow a recipe to the T and then just hope that everything will work out. You need to go back to the dough and see if it's feeling warm, if it's feeling cold, what the external temperatures might be doing, whether it's raining, whether it's a dry day. These are all things that you need to think about, and you can't just be indifferent. So you always need to think about what the dough could be experiencing. Primarily, I'm a sourdough baker, and I have 3 starters that I babysit and feed on an almost daily basis, if not daily basis. You can make a beautiful focaccia with sourdough as well, But I think when you're just starting out as a baker, it's easier to go with an instant yeast because it gives you a very reliable result.
So what's next for Babette? What are you working on?
So I am currently writing my first book, and it's just been okayed by a publisher. So yeah, stay tuned. That's due to happen sometime soon.
You've had quite an interesting life and career path, and I'm so glad it led you here. And I believe our dough is ready to be dressed and to go into the oven. So when we return, we'll finish up our focaccia, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned for more Dish with Mary. We now return to Dish with Mary. Welcome back. We're making focaccia with Babette, and we've brought all our ingredients back, and we're at the final stretch. See what I did there? Final stretch? Okay, moving along. What are our next steps?
Now it's time to top our focaccia. Let's get our dough uncovered. Beautiful. Are you seeing some bubbles, Mary?
So if I run my hand along, I can feel that it's uneven. We've got bubbles happening. We've got little peaks.
Gorgeous. Now we're going to drizzle some olive oil over the top, and we're going to dimple our dough.
Okay, so I'm gonna drizzle and dimple is what we're doing.
Correct.
What's the technique for dimpling?
Just with your fingertips, gently, all over.
So we're just pushing in with our fingers into the dough.
Yes. And you're trying to spread the olive oil a little bit, obviously, as well. And now it's time for our garlic and rosemary.
I'm just gonna rub this oil into my hands. This makes a beautiful hand cream. So now we got some fresh rosemary, and we're just gonna pick this right off the stem.
Beautiful, fresh. Smell that. Oh.
What I love about this is that you don't have to be perfect about it. Anything goes.
So you decide how much rosemary you want. And now it's time for our garlic. We're going to dot it all over the surface of our focaccia. The larger pieces you can sort of break into smaller bits.
I mean, the smell of this is absolutely delicious.
It's heavenly.
I'm already salivating like this. And it reminds me of my aunts, because my aunts used to always make fresh bread, and especially when the holidays came around. And of course, they would share with us. And I remember my dad bringing it home and us kind of fighting one another for the first piece. But yeah, we always shared with the rest of the family. Now, what salt are we using here?
We're using the Malden salt, those lovely flakes.
Okay, so let me just wipe my hands.
Just for an added crunch.
So good. I am drooling.
We are ready to bake.
So we're gonna put it in the oven for how long?
For about 30 to 35 minutes at 425 degrees.
All right, so let's put this in the oven. And I happen to have one that's already baked. Ta-da!
How gorgeous is that? Beautifully golden.
It is golden, it's crispy. I just, even touching it, you got that crunchy outer layer. I can't wait to cut into this. I wish all of you could smell what I am smelling right now. It is absolutely delicious. Is drool worthy a word?
Oh, 100%.
So I'm just gonna take my focaccia right out of the tray. Now it's cooled off, so I'm able to handle it. But if it hasn't cooled off, be careful. Use gloves. Shall we cut into it?
Yes,
Let's do this. Oh gosh, do you hear that crunch?
Yes, little squares, so you can make beautiful sandwiches with these. Have a look at your crumb. You should have some beautiful little bubbles.
See this. Okay, I've got I'm just feeling along. I have got so many little bubbles.
You want an airy, bubbly, light focaccia.
All right, finally, the moment I've been waiting for. Can we taste this?
Oh, let's do.
This is so good. I just got a little bit of garlic with it, that caramelization, that sweetness from the garlic, the rosemary, that crispy crust. And then you've got that, I can't, I need another bite.
Bread is truly magical, isn't it?
It really is. Babette, thank you so much for baking with me today, for sharing this delicious focaccia recipe with us. It was so much fun.
It was wonderful. Thank you, Mary. I had so much fun, and I hope we can bake again soon.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Great.
For all of today's recipes, you can visit our website at ami.ca/dish-recipes. Host, Mary Mammoliti. Executive producer, Michelle Dudas. Producer, Anna Padra-Barrick. Associate producer and editor, Manuel Grados Andrade. Director of photography, Toronto, Brian Roy. Camera assistant, Toronto, Gavin Lee. Sound recordist, Toronto, Mike Monson. Vancouver production crew supplied by Blink Studios. Production assistant, Miriam Bakhtiar. Food stylist, Joyce Singh. Vancouver videographer, Sergio Vera Barahona. Media accessibility specialist, Simone Cupid. Audio post, Mike Monson. Graphics, Mike Smith. President and CEO, David Arrington. Copyright 2022, Accessible Media Inc.